Rob, the 10:40 kickoff on Saturday, the Brumbies hosting the Cheetahs. Interesting stat I saw, excuse me, is South African sides have only won 5 out of 44 fixtures in Canberra. So Canberra is certainly not a happy hunting ground for South African teams. Pocock back for the Brumbies, and the Cheetahs have got Willie Leroux and Kuni Oosthuizen back.
Yeah, that gives them a little bit of a hope, I suppose, that they've reinfused a few Springboks. Actually, you've got to say the Cheetahs weren't too bad with their almost sort of second string side. Now, a Cheetah's second string in itself is a worrying phenomenon because even their top side is not the sort of force that it used to be. So they actually did pretty well under the circumstances. To only lose, I think it was by 10 points going to the Chiefs. So that was a pretty reasonable performance by them. They'll be a little bit sad that they didn't manage to get a fighting losing bonus point out of that game. But I'm afraid, again, I don't see them being able to win here. As you say, Canberra, awful place for South African teams. You just can't think of too many sort of famous wins from sort of recent memory anyway. So you've got to think that it might just blow out a little bit in favour of the Brumbies. I think the Cheetahs will hang in for a while. I've got a feeling that they might hit hard early on because the Brumbies come off a bye. So the Cheetahs might think, well, we can try and catch these guys a little bit cold. And, you know, with Willie Leroux pulling a few strings from fullback, maybe Kuni Oosthuizen sort of exerting himself a little bit up front, putting in a few powerful surges to sort of, just sort of galvanise the whole pack. But I'm afraid come the end of the 80 minutes, I just cannot see the Cheetahs, even if they were to score sort of 25 or 30 points themselves, you've got to think, well, perhaps the Brumbies are smart enough to be able to get 35 or 40 points. So I just can't really see any way that the Cheetahs are going to win this one.
The feeling I get from the New Zealand and Australian commentators public is that they really enjoy playing the Cheetahs because of their sort of expansive running brand of rugby. It doesn't seem to be, there seem to be a few shades off the 2013 sort of brand they were playing.
Yeah, I mean, that team was obviously winning plenty of games and getting respect that way. This team still throws the ball around quite a lot. And the one thing, you always got to give a little bit of a salute to the Cheetahs for the sort of pluckiness that they've got. They do keep hitting back. And I think Heinrich Brousseau's made a big difference since he's come back into the mix. He brushed off his rust remarkably quickly and has been a very influential figure. He kept fighting right to the end in the game against the Chiefs. Got a try, I think, sort of right at the death, which was almost sort of a testament to the way he'd really gone for the full game. He's got a great engine on him, and he'll be a big factor. His battle with Pocock on the open side, I think, could be a very pleasing aspect of the game. But as I say, only one result for this one.
Speaking of unfavourable records for South Africans, Garen, the Sharks have only beaten the Crusaders 4 out of 19 attempts. So they're going to try and change that on Saturday. The 3 o'clock kickoff. Lambie captaining, Kobus Reinhach and Marcel Coetzee also back for the Sharks.
Yeah, they've brought back a couple of their Springbok players, as you said, after giving them the weekend off last weekend. They've obviously lost Frans Steyn now for 5 weeks, 4 matches for his ban for his tip tackle 2 weeks ago. Quite ironic, the situation there. This Crusaders team, obviously the record against the Sharks was in their heyday when they won 7 titles and they were very, very tough to beat. They've gone a little bit off the boil. I think they're certainly not a shadow of the teams of yesteryear. They've got Dan Carter missing. He's gone back to New Zealand for the birth of his second child. They've benched Richie McCaw, who gave away a number of penalties last week against the Bulls. So I think the Sharks certainly will start as favourites. They'll certainly back themselves to win this game. It will be a good result for them because they've been pretty poor, I feel, and quite astoundingly are top of the South African conference. I'm not too sure how they managed to burgle victories against the Force and certainly the Chiefs when they were down to 13 men. But by hook or by crook, they've managed to do...
It's been ugly rugby from the Sharks.
It's been ugly rugby from all the 5 South African teams, to be honest, this year. I haven't been that impressed at all. I think Heineken, as from a coach in the Rugby World Cup year, has to be a little bit worried. He certainly hasn't seen the flash, the try-scoring bonus points by any of the teams, and they really are struggling. And obviously we still have to remember that the Sharks still need to go on tour, the Bulls still need to go on tour, so I don't think times ahead are necessarily that rosy for the South African team. So this is a pretty big game for the Sharks. If they can knock over the Crusaders, who again, I think they're 4th in their division, they are struggling. They, at the moment, don't look like they're going to make the playoffs because they've really got 3 New Zealand teams ahead of them, and we're approaching sort of the halfway mark of the tournament already. So it'll be a big game for them. Like I said, they've made a couple of changes. I'm not sure if their team is stronger or weaker without McCaw and Carter, who both sort of been shadows of their former self. So they got Colin Slade, at fly-off. He has played quite well. His battle with Lambie will go a long way to determining the outcome of this game. Nadolo on the wing, massive force for the Crusaders if he gets rumbling.
I don't know where they find these swingers, the Kiwis.
Unbelievable. They just seem to be churning them out this year in particular, and some Australian teams as well. So I'm going to give the advantage, however slight, to the Sharks. Without Steyn. I think they're a little bit upset that Steyn has been banned. They're going to play for him a little bit. So I'm going to give it a very, very tight game. I wouldn't be surprised if this game goes either way, but the home side to sneak it, I reckon, by about 2 or 3 points. Prediction from you, Rob, for that one?
Yes, I'm going Sharks. Dangerous prediction because Crusaders, if they get in the mood, of course, I hate to say it, but they could win the game by 15, 16 points. None of us have been totally sort of convinced by the Sharks this season. It's been pretty grim rugby. But I've just got a feeling that they're actually going to show a little extra dimension in this game. That they're actually the 7-time champions coming to Durban is going to sort of just get them out of that slumber, and that the Sharks will actually finally show us something and do enough, I think, to just get over the line. I think it'll be very, very tight.
Okay, Rob, and then I'm going to stick with you. The final kickoff at 5 o'clock, a Yuxke derby.
Garen and I, there's a Yuxke derby going on between us as well.
Well, a lot of hype around that. How do you see that one going? I see obviously Pollard's out.
Yes.
And Elton Yankee seems to be playing some decent rugby this year. Obviously, we also got a huge battle up front.
Yeah, it will be. It'll be, I think, a pretty titanic game. Comes at an interesting time with the Bulls having come off their best performance of the season in beating the Crusaders. So it's really on those grounds primarily that I've sort of suggested that the momentum they got from that game might just be enough to get them through a derby just down the drag in Johannesburg. Not too far for them to travel, obviously, and the Bulls will still take plenty of support to Johannesburg. So. I'm still giving it to them, although I've got to say that after I put in my Super Brew pick, we learnt that Handré Pollard had pulled out of the with a slight knee niggle out of the Bulls lineup. That's a pretty big blow. Jacques-Louis Potgieter comes in. With respect to him, he's more of a sort of gritty journeyman sort of character, not necessarily the sort of match winner that Pollard is. But they say you've got to be brave. They say you've got to stick with your tip. So I'm going to say that the Bulls, even without Pollard, even without Victor Matfield in the second row, I think they might just do enough, primarily on the grounds that the Lions have just come back from overseas, obviously on a high after winning 3 of their 4 games, and I just think that the long haul back and now chucked into 2 really tough derbies. They've got the Bulls this week, and then they play the Sharks before they get another bye, and they actually could have done with a break, I think, after the success they had on their trip. Just mentally, I think they needed a chance to recharge, and I've got a feeling that the Bulls might cash in on that and just edge it by an absolute whisker.
Okay. Karen, you're obviously going the other way. Just quickly, why the Lions?
Look, I think the Lions are on a high. I think that the high that they're on will overcome the jet lag that they're going to have to overcome to, flying back to South Africa. They've had an extra day's break, having played on the Friday last week, playing on Saturday. They are at home. I don't think the Bulls are a fantastic side. I think they were fairly fortunate last week against the Crusaders. Intercept try late on, blew the score out. They scored 2 very early tries, then hung on through sheer guts and determination. Missing Pollard, who was man of the match, missing Matfield, missing Jan Sturfontein. I think those are their 3 best players by some distance. Again, with all due respect to Jacques-Louis Potgieter, he's no better than a Currie Cup or Vodacom Cup player at best. So, there's a massive gulf between him and Pollard. I think Elton Young, even though I'm not a massive fan, and Marnitz Boshoff are both probably better players than Potgieter. I agree it's going to be fairly close, but I think Warren Whiteley's been unbelievable this year. He leads by example, inspirational captain for them, speaks really well. I'd love to hear him giving the victory speech after the game. So I'm going to go with a home victory again, but by also 2-3 points at most. Should be a fantastic match to end the weekend.
Great, thanks, gents.
Thanks, Nick.